Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, whichever coast you're on. And I hear tell it's hot wherever we are today. And today we've got our special guest is Danny Thomas. Danny's been with us before, but today he's going to talk to us about grief and loss. And he's got a story to tell us, and it's wonderful. And he's also got, hopefully, he'll give us some resources. I know he's got some. So, anyway, I want to start with saying that this is season 5, episode 7. And Sandy, you going to give us a quote today?
Yes, I am. When we're going through tragedy and tough times, one of the things to remember is never let fear decide your future.
Okay.
We can get frozen in time sometimes when we're up against hard stuff, and don't let fear be the one that makes your future.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, Danny, I'm going to give the I guess it's not the floor, whatever. We're giving the camera to you, and just kind of tell us what's up for you. I know that you've got a story to tell, and so go ahead and hit it.
Well, first of all, Sue and Sandy, thanks for inviting me back on. This is a little different subject than the last time we were together dealing with leadership. This one is the personal, the person behind the scenes of what we do and where we go and all of those things. Sorry, I'm live with several of my African friends, so I apologize.
No problem.
Everybody, grief and loss are real. Professionally, being a pastor for 48 years, I've walked with the miscarriage and I've walked with the child. As a matter of fact, I just was the officiant of a little boy who had a lifelong illness, and the illness got him very quickly. I've done almost 800 funerals, ladies.
Wow.
48 years. And this was only the second time in my pastoral career where the medical team that worked on the child came to the service.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
sorry, everybody. Did I go away?
Yes, you did. Your voice.
Oh, no. How do I get back? Let's see. Oh, everybody, I am so bad.
Oh no, you're fine.
I'm back.
You're back.
It was as I was saying, it's the second time in all those funerals that I've had a medical team actually come to the memorial service. So it was traumatic for them.
Oh, sure.
Death, grief, loss are unique to every person who faces it and goes through it.
Right.
There is the time of hearing that your loved one, in my case, my wife of 33 years, was given a diagnosis, and 120 days later, she was gone.
Wow.
And we went through all of the things that medical science could give. And halfway through that 120 days, our doctors pulled all treatment other than comfort care from her.
Wow.
So in doing that, I did it again. I'm sorry, everybody. Oh, my word.
Oh, you came back.
I came back.
That's all that matters.
Oh, so dealing with a rapid decline, different than a car accident or a heart attack, there were days of talking and discussing what life would be like and how our adult children would act and grandchildren act and react. At the same time, finalities of those days, counting them off. My first wife was 51 when she died, and she always wanted to be 72. Oh, when the illness was diagnosed, we thought, okay, well, they thought maybe 9 or 10 years. And then within 25 days, you've got 2 or 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
So we started celebrating every week a birthday. And then it became to try to celebrate every day a birthday, and we ended on day 71, and she died that day.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't make it to 72,
Yeah.
which was what she wanted. But um, the process, I'm 15 years this September from the moments where everything sets in.
Mhm.
Was I in denial? Yeah, and probably I still am at days when I'm going to be really honest. Was I mad? Oh, I used to go down. Is it Owens Beach, ladies?
It is
Yes.
going to
Yeah.
be-
Okay. I would go down to Owens Beach. Police officers knew me because of the association of one of the churches in Tacoma where I was at over the years. And I would go to Owens Beach and they'd come down and say, Pastor, you need to leave now. We're closing the park.
Oh,
I'd say, just give me another minute. And I'd go out and sit on one of the logs and scream at God. Just why? Don't
right.
just,
Yeah.
I guess if Jesus could look in his Father's face and say on the cross of Calvary, my God, why?
Maybe
It
so.
was okay for me
Yes.
2,000 years later to do the same. And I did.
Yeah.
Did I bargain? I think that I would do anything and say anything to God to give her another day or another minute.
Yeah.
Um, let me tell you about depression. After Jane died, I went through giving up, maybe.
Yeah.
I could preach, but I couldn't pastor. I just didn't have the capacity in my brain. And the longer that went on, depression finally took such a hold. I slept 15 minutes each night, only 3 times. So I had 45 minutes of night of sleep for 2.5 years.
Oh, wow.
And finally, I went to the doctors and great team in Tacoma that took care of me. They gave me 90 days to live.
Oh,
Every internal organ was shutting down because of my depression.
sure.
So here we are 15 years later. I still struggle to sleep. I use sleep aids and medication to get me 3 or 4 or 5 hours of night on a good night of sleep. So all of those stages are there. Am I accepting? Yeah, but it still stings.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So
You don't have to like it.
Oh no, I don't have to like it. You're right. And then just a side note, I remarried 9 years ago, and 5.5 years ago, I won the human lottery when my now second wife comes home to tell me that she has cancer.
Oh my.
And it's everything all over again. Only this time, process, treat, or surgical success, treatment success. And just 10 days ago, she was moved into the 5-year survivor group.
Wow.
But 5 years of reliving
Mhm.
120 days
Right.
all over again.
Right.
So a couple of things became my anchor. One, my adult kids and my grandkids. You know, the day after Jane's death, I had to get up the next morning and make breakfast because we had a blended home where we had 4 generations living together in one house. And there were 5 grandkids that wanted breakfast. And they didn't really care that Papa was crying. They just wanted food on the table.
Mhm.
So getting up for them wasn't a mask, it was just a purpose.
Right. Right.
So in grief and loss, you can lose purpose or you can have a pseudo relief. And I would encourage anybody in the middle of grief and loss that you find a purpose. And the purpose can be as simple as I've got somebody to get a meal for.
Right.
I've got a walk that I need to take. I've got a church that I need to go to. And the other part for me as a pastor is the New Testament talks about there is a fellowship of suffering.
Mm,
And in that fellowship of suffering, I'm not alone.
right.
I always have told, and Sue, you probably heard me over the years, you can have two fellows in a ship and not have fellowship.
Yeah.
That's right. I like that.
But in the grief loss world, it's easy to become insulated and isolated.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
much more difficult when you get up and have a purpose and understand that your grief can become an inroad to somebody else's pain.
Yeah.
So I'm on here today only because I want to help somebody else
Yeah.
who's in the middle of losing or lost,
Right.
somebody else that has had joy and now has a void where there is grief. And so that fellowship of suffering, it says that it was put there so that we could have compassion for others.
Yeah.
And I hope my story today is just that. It's a point where somebody says, I'm not alone.
Hmm.
You could be in any of the stages before. You could be in any of those platforms of either escalating or de-escalating, of spiraling down or trying to walk up.
Hmm.
Um, they are real and they hang on. Doesn't go away. I'm 15 years. And it feels like sometimes, I will tell you, Jane died in September, and we had her memorial stone placed in a cemetery in Tacoma. And it was 4 days before Christmas. So Christmas in Tacoma is not Christmas in Maine. It is cold, it is wet, it is raining, it is bitter, and I can still hear the steps that I took from her grave
Mm.
after the marker had been placed.
Yeah.
And I was walking away, and every step I took, the grass sounded like thunder crunching under my feet.
Mhm.
And that hangs with me.
Yeah.
I was trying to walk. Oh, I did it again.
There you are.
I tried to walk out and walk away, and you can't.
Mm-mm.
So there is a dealing with, and acceptance, I know, is the very end of the matrix. Um, for me, there was an immediate acceptance because of a hope,
Hmm.
but there is now this almost daily. I'm walking a different path
Hmm.
because I'm not walking with her.
Right. Yeah.
So that reality sets in regularly,
Yeah.
but it's no longer the barrier. It is now the platform to take the next step.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, Danny, that it's important for people who are dealing with grief, no matter what's going on in their life, giving them permission, like you said, to realize you're going to go through these different things over and over again, possibly, or you may skip an area. But again, saying, it's okay for me to have to wrestle with acceptance at points and times. I think we do ourselves a certain disservice, and our society certainly adds to that, in the fact that we don't grieve well in our world right now, I don't think.
Yeah, and one of the things, like for me, being the pastoral counselor that I have been all these years, um, I went to a couple of grief groups. The first day I could hide. The second or third time back, when it was known that I was a pastor,
Mm.
I got pushed into,
Mm.
you got all the answers, so you lead the group.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Thanks a lot.
So I didn't go back.
Sure.
Right.
And after the third one of those experiences, I never went back.
Right. Right.
So I insulated and isolated.
Hmm.
That wasn't a great thing for me.
Oh.
Okay. But I didn't have somebody else.
No.
Well, eventually I have a friend who spent a lifetime in Tacoma by the name of Fulton Buntain. And Pastor B would come and take me for a walk, or he would take me out for a cup of coffee, or he'd come to my office and say, we need to talk today. And he became my safe place
Mhm. Yeah.
that allowed me to talk about things with him couldn't talk to anybody else. I couldn't even talk to my adult kids about.
Sure. Sure.
So
Right. Your role made it that you had to be incognito to the general public, and that's really
yeah,
unfortunate. And I'm sure that's true. I mean, and some of that is even internal, that we don't feel like we want to burden anybody by talking about it.
yeah,
Well, Danny, I talked to actually 3 of my friends who recently became widows just within the last 6 months. And I felt a desire to reach out to them and call them and say, I've been thinking of you and stuff. And what I found with all 3 of them, it was very cathartic for them to tell me stories about their hubby. And they may have told me that before, but I need to have a listening ear to be able to align myself with where we are right now. What I found more above anything else is the storytelling of this is what happened, and laughing, being able to laugh about silly things, or being able to say, they could be really cranky sometimes, or, just hearing them be able to process, because again, like you said, they don't feel like they can just do that. And if you've told your kids once, you don't want to tell them twice or 3 times. Where if you have a friend that can just be a safe place to go, I think that's one of the best things that we can do for the people around us, because when you see people hurting, you're not sure what to do.
yeah.
And I think this has been a learning thing for me, is to be able to listen.
Yeah, I think in the immediate, everybody is always looking for that right word to say. I think sometimes the best thing to do is say nothing at
Right.
all.
Right.
And sometimes it's vomiting, and sometimes it's waterfall,
Mhm.
whatever term you want to use, of getting out. But
Mm-hmm.
be somebody's safe place.
Right.
If you know somebody is grieving or in loss, uh, be their safe place.
Right.
And if you're going to listen, don't be a repeater of what you heard.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Well, one of the gals I talked to yesterday was actually working on an obituary, and her husband was killed in a car accident. So it was a very sudden thing. And I caught her just as she was uh, doing the work for the memorial that the celebration of life for him. And yeah, the timing, it was just like a God thing, because
Yeah.
it was when she needed to be able to have a release to say, this is hard, and be able to tell her stories about the things she remembers as she's going through and putting this history together to share with people for the memorial.
Yeah.
I have used for years tombstones. I'm odd. When I travel the world, and I've been in over 100 countries, I always try to go to a cemetery.
Mhm.
And cemeteries have markings, and those markings are summaries of lives.
Sure.
And there's a birth date, a death date, and then there's this line. I call it the dash in the middle.
Right.
And that dash says more than anything else. But occasionally you'll run across somebody. There's one down in Key West. Lady has on her epitaph, on her memorial stone, I told you I was sick.
Mhm.
So those moments being expressed, whether they are from the living or from the dead, speak volumes, and
Mhm.
those volumes need to be heard.
Yeah.
In the Old Testament, there's a promise made by a guy whose name is Joseph. We've done the Prince of Egypt and lots of movies and the musicals, but he asks people before he dies to make them a promise.
Take my
It
book.
takes 440 years from
Right.
when he dies for that promise to be fulfilled. And
Mhm.
in that promise is made in Genesis, and the fulfillment happens in Exodus. And
Yeah.
here's the line. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him.
Wow.
Somebody had to know for 440 years, for
Right.
11 generations, where Joseph was.
Right.
Somebody was tasked to know the stories of Joseph's life so that every generation following would have the stories of faith, trial, and triumph.
Yeah.
And I think that part of grieving is telling stories, but the people who hear those stories then find a place where they can tell the next generation
Right.
about the person that's being grieved over and why grief is so strong and why loss is so real.
Yeah. Yeah. Danny, I want to go back to something you said about Jane's marker, her tombstone,
Yeah.
and about how when you walked away, you still can hear those footsteps.
Yeah.
And what comes to me when you say that is there's so much about grief that is visceral. You actually feel it, you hear it, it's the senses, and it doesn't necessarily make sense. I remember after my dad died, I still, every Friday evening when I used to pick up the phone and call him, I did that for months. And then 6 months later, I did it again.
Yeah.
It was just that visceral piece that's still in you. And I don't think you process it out, but it's important to remember that whatever pops up, process it in the minute. It's
Yeah.
going to change, but I thought that was so powerful. And then the taking of Joseph's bones is
Yeah.
huge too. I mean, and that's the legacy piece.
Right.
And generationally, somehow we've lost some of that
Mhm.
legacy in our culture.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I think what happens is, so we've been able to identify the stages, right? And we're, as clinicians at times, we're very good at putting people in the box of a stage,
Yes.
and then we can deal in the box. But legacy afterwards is so important for that next generation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most of us in the Western world, we will know parents, grandparents, we might get to great grandparents, but you go back the fourth generation and it's lost. Go
Mhm.
back 5 or 6, and unless you're doing one of the genetic tests or you're doing, the ability to find past, it just gets lost. The stories get lost.
Mhm.
And I think stories are what we need in our lives today because those become anchors. Somebody went through something in our heritage that there is a marker, there is a place, and we're going to tell the story of how they came through, how they
Right.
came over, how they got up, how they survived. I mean, my parents are the parents that were children of the Depression. Their parents, my grandparents, went through the Depression. So, my dad is 16 of 18 children that lived. There were 3 sets of twins that died in childbirth. Then the flu epidemic took 9 of his brothers and sisters during the 20s.
Oh, you're kidding.
So, I am now living back where those stories and my heritage is about 140 miles from where I sit right now.
Wow.
And I hear stories because there are people here who knew relatives of mine that I never knew.
Right.
But it's hearing the stories. But there were children that died in the Spanish flu. I know their names, but didn't know their stories. I've got people here who actually knew them,
Wow.
and I hear those stories again. So it gives an anchor for me because my grandparents went through loss and my parents went through loss. I've gone through loss, but I can go to their stories as anchors. They set themselves down in the harbor of life, and storms came and storms went, but the ship still sailed.
Yeah.
So here we are,
Mhm.
and
So
and
it gives you
we're
some
not
hope.
alone.
Yeah, it gives you some hope.
Absolutely.
Well, and what's so powerful about what you're saying about stories is that stories are connected to humans, and therefore you've got emotions. Whereas oftentimes, our grandkids don't even know their grandparents, so they're not talking to them, and they
Mhm.
don't have time to find out that grandma, I told you I was sick.
Yeah, yeah. Have you just
There's no human connection without a human being.
Right.
right?
It doesn't come through the pages. So that is so
Absolutely.
good. I like that for a name of a song or a book, Danny. Stories as anchors.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Danny, and I like the story thing too. If you go back to the history of the beginning of the world, that's how history got shared, was by stories before there was a written language. And
absolutely.
so
The
it was
oral,
important to be able to share that. And like you said, there's a different feeling for somebody telling you a story versus just reading it, right?
yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
The emotion isn't there. You
Right.
kind of make up the emotion when you read it, even if it's a good, well,
Right.
adjectived story. It's not the same as a person telling it.
No.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So, anything else? You've got some wonderful pieces to this story. And so what, I don't want to say advice, but what do you want to tell people who are new to this grieving process, going through it, but new to it?
First of all, there is a tomorrow.
Right.
Secondly, because there is a past, the past is going to shape your tomorrow. So don't leave your loss on the wayside and say, I'll just get over it.
Yeah.
Embrace all of the anger and the frustration and the loneliness. I told people I didn't mind being alone. I couldn't stand loneliness.
Mhm. Yeah.
There was a moment, it's 8:50 on September the 17th in 2010, where I became alone.
Mhm.
But dealing with the loneliness that caused, two separate issues.
Yeah.
And the loneliness, don't be in your loneliness alone.
Okay. I like.
That's if that even makes sense. I'm not sure it does. I know what I'm trying to say. There is somebody that you can partner with, that you can find. They don't have to say a word, but in you being able to tell the story, you find healing in moments where you could have been very frustrating. And not everybody has great relationships when it comes to grief and loss.
Right.
So I've done this. Just, you're not going to be able to bring the person back, and you're not going to be able to change what was done. But there has to be a point in the process of not ever forgetting, but forgiving.
Yeah.
Right.
So I have people write letters to their loved one,
Mm.
and then I tell them to go burn it,
Mhm.
or literally put it in a bottle, break the bottle,
Get it out.
and put it in the Puyallup River. I mean, just do something tangible with the pain
Mhm.
that becomes visible to you. I couldn't change it. As Fulton would tell us so many times, Sue, you've heard him say, you can't change yesterday.
Yeah.
I
Right.
can't.
Mm-mm.
And I can't forget yesterday. But the pain caused from events ended when that life ended, where you began grief and loss.
Right.
So wrap your hand in words around the event or events, and then put it away,
Yeah.
burn it, watch it visibly be
Mhm.
become ashes in your eyes. And there's something amazing for the heart and the brain when that happens,
Yeah.
that there is a moment where you go, okay, I couldn't change it. I'm
Mhm.
not bringing it back, but I am going to put an end.
Yeah.
That's the end.
Mhm. You're releasing it and processing it, and so many of us are so good at stuffing our emotions and keeping them there, and that helps even without another person to put it out. And it's almost a corner of self-forgiveness.
Right.
Forgiving myself for
Yeah.
what I couldn't do,
Yeah.
but it
Well,
releases.
let me, so can I jump in? So
Oh, please.
Sandy, here, listen, when the doctors withdrew all of the therapies, chemo and radiation and everything, and Jane's type of cancer, when she died, ate every oxygen cell in her body.
Mm.
So she was as black as a black could be from lack of oxygen. And I was angry at that.
Yeah.
I
There's
was
so
just
much.
I was, you know, and so you knew Jane. I mean, she's a Scandinavian blonde with China white doll skin, and that process. And to hear the doctor say there is literally nothing, so we aren't going to put her through more. She was at the end on over 100 milligrams of Dilaudid and 300 milligrams of morphine an hour
Wow.
just to control the pain. And I was angry,
Oh, yes.
but I was angry at me that I couldn't do anything. I had been not only her husband and her lover, and I was her pastor.
Right.
And none of those roles
Worked.
could I affect an outcome that I had nothing to do with.
Right.
So I know that was an injected thought. I should have probably left it out. But
Oh, no.
I think that people realizing, your dear friend who just lost a husband in a car accident, nothing she can do. She can be mad at the mechanics. She can be mad at whatever the circumstance was.
Right.
Still doesn't change.
Right.
Right. So that how do I deal with it? And I think the best way to deal for me was go to Owens Beach and scream. Just scream at God. And have police officers, Sue, that knew me well, come down and say, Pastor, you got to go. I just got to scream a little more. And they would stay with me. They wouldn't say that, they would just stay with me and let me scream. And then they walk me back to the car and say, you okay now? I cannot tell you how many nights that scene was repeated at Owens Beach for over a year.
Wow.
Okay, so there it is. I'll
Powerful.
shut up.
Well, it's powerful, and you allowed yourself to do it, and that's powerful.
Well, and the other, I allowed myself to do it. Nobody knew I was doing it.
Well, that's right. Except for the cops that tried to get you off the beat. Bless their hearts. They have their own little ministry.
Yeah.
Well, there's times when you don't want to try to do self-control. There's times when you just want to be able to, like you said, scream because of the pain and the I understand that. I think can be very healthy to do that, to be able to let yourself let go and do what you need to do to be okay.
To remember that God tells us that He's our daddy.
Yeah.
And under His wing, under the wing of the Almighty, or in the palm of His hand, those comforting moments that we often don't allow ourselves to feel vulnerable, because it's scary to feel vulnerable. We're not in control.
Right.
I guess that's what death and loss tells us, is that we're not in control. But oh my.
I remember when I was face to face with a really traumatic situation in my life when I was a young married and had 3 babies, and I was face to face with a reality check that I couldn't ignore. And I remember walking out of the situation, and it was about 6 or 7 in the morning, and the birds were singing and the sun was shining. And I remember, how can the world keep going on? My world has just been destroyed. And I remember, and I still think of that once in a while, where when you are in the depth of despair, it's hard to believe at that point. How can things keep going on?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's true. Wow. Danny, thank you so much for sharing. I know that you've touched the hearts of many today. And it's just a matter of just sharing your story, which seems so simple, but it's so profound.
Well, and you bring a whole layer of wisdom in the fact that that's what you've done in your career, Danny, has been there for other people. And you've seen, if you had 800 funerals, you have seen loss over and over again. And so there's a sense of knowing that the rest of us don't have.
Well,
yeah,
it was on a clinical side and then a very personal. The other thing is, in my first wife's family, I buried her father at 50. I buried her sister at 36, and I buried Jane at 51.
Wow. Young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So unless you have final words, Danny, I do this. I hope this isn't too clinical. I just ask each of us, what's one takeaway from our conversation today? I'll let you go first, Danny. What's a takeaway for you?
The power of the story is to be open and honest enough to tell it because you faced it,
Mhm.
and then you're going to move forward from it.
Mm.
That's my takeaway.
Okay, I love that. Sandy, how about you?
One of the things that's in my mind is his saying, just because you have two fellows on a ship doesn't mean you have fellowship. And that is really true. And the fact that you need to find your people when you're going through this kind of situation of grieving, no matter where the grieving is coming from, whether it's it's some kind of loss in your life. Find your people so that you can be safe in being able to tell your stories and being able to have someone listen with love in their heart and acceptance of who you are.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of tag on to what, well, both of you have said, but if there's somebody who you know is grieving or you find out, don't let anything hold you back from taking the step, just going to be with that person and listen. You don't have to do anything more than be there. And that's going to be more healing than any scripture or, sympathy card. Just be there. Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, I can't thank you enough, Danny. Hopefully we'll have you back again and again and again. We've got some new series coming up. And if you don't mind emailing me that, you have a link you're going to send me about your
Yeah, you may already have it from
Oh,
Bruce
it's
Drummond.
Bruce's. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
it's that
anything else?
link because
Yeah.
he I'll jump in. I helped him write the course. I've helped him write several of his courses over the years, and so that one was written between the two of us, both being widowers
Mhm.
and facing loss uniquely. So yeah,
Sure.
that,
Sure. Good. And again, if you know anybody who would be willing to come on and share their story, we're here. That's kind of what we're doing. So
good.
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 Thanks again. And hang on just a minute. I'm going to end our recording and then we'll talk for a sec.
Blessings to you, Danny.
Thanks.